Hi, everyone. This is Josh Stella, the CEO and co founder of Fugue, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about infrastructure as code, policy as code, and security throughout the cloud software development lifecycle. So, to start, a little bit about infrastructure as code. Infrastructure as code is the use of configuration files, or in some cases, scripts and code, to programming code to generate and configure and reconfigure and destroy cloud services, cloud infrastructure services. So, for example, in a traditional piece of application code, I might check to see if a password is valid. And if it is, allow admittance to an environment. In a typical piece of infrastructure as code, I might create a network or populate a network with servers or containers. And so this is a new and relatively new and unique kind of code, and it has very unique side effects and security concerns. This is all the way to the left. When you hear about shift left on cloud security, this is pretty much all the way to the left. When you're writing a template in something like CloudFormation on AWS, Terraform, or Azure Resource Manager, before that template gets executed, before that infrastructure is actually deployed to the cloud, by using policy as code, we can check it to see if it has security flaws, security vulnerabilities. So a lot of folks in the kind of security side of the shop, traditionally security and application development or software engineering were separate concerns. What we're seeing now is those concerns are merging, and the teams are often merging because in the cloud, building infrastructure is actually an engineering and software development process. And so at Fugue, we approach it that way. We approach it as a software engineering problem. So by using policy as code on those templates before they're launched, developers can understand how the security team is going to view the validity of what they're making. Now, for developers, this is very natural because we are used to getting errors from debuggers, from compilers. We're used to our tools telling us where we are wrong when we are experimenting and when we're doing new things. And so by having this all the way through the SDLC, the software development lifecycle, starting on the left, it's a way to bring the engineering, development, and security teams together. So, what do we mean by all the way through the software development lifecycle? Well, the beginning of it is when you're, defining requirements or, starting a sprint with a use case or something like this. And then you get to code, and then you get to testing, and then you get to actual deployment and running that application in production. And then it loops, right? Constantly loops. At Fugue, for example, we ship code every 2 weeks to production. And so we're going through this every 2 weeks, all the way through this. So the folks who are saying you just have to shift left for cloud security are wrong, are demonstrably wrong. What you need is your policy as code to work through the entire SDLC. So what that means is your policy as code, you need to be able to author a single policy as code for a given security concern that can check your Terraform template, that can be used in the CICD toolchain to fail builds, for example, and then can be used to monitor the running infrastructure that was produced by the infrastructure as code. So this is very different than application code. When you're writing application code, you have a pretty good understanding when you go through the CICD pipeline that what's running in production accurately is reflected by what's in the source code repo. That is absolutely not true for infrastructure as code on the cloud. And the reason is simple. It is an unusual practice to do things like modify a binary or a program in production, but it is a very common practice to do things like make minor adjustments to a network or change a disk configuration on a running compute instance or make modifications to a container cluster, and to not do that through the infrastructure as code. And so you have to know, you have to assume that anything you've deployed, even if you checked it beforehand, is no longer safe. Because in most modern organizations, many of our customers in Fugue, for example, have thousands or tens of thousands even of developers, hundreds and hundreds of cloud accounts. We manage millions of these cloud resources for our customers from a security perspective, networks, et cetera, et cetera. In all cases, when you're operating at scale on cloud, it is very difficult to keep track of everyone who has access and of everything they've ever done, and whether that has had any impact on your IaC. So at Fugue, we very much believe you have to go all the way through the SDLC with single policies. You have to have a rich policy enforcement engine, a unified policy engine that works throughout the SDLC, and that works with all the different kinds of infrastructure as code to help developers. So I hope this was informative to you. We are going to be producing a ton of content over the next couple of months on very, very detailed deep dives into policy as code, open policy agent, which is what we use for our policy as code. We've already taught one class on that, which is on our YouTube, and we'll be doing more. So thanks for your time, and have a great one.